Hello, I'm Jeremy. Welcome to my channel. Depending on what platform you're on, it depends on if I have one or two channels. On YouTube, I have two. One is freedom of expression, and this video is going on practical focused improvement. And I wanted to go over a little bit better detail of some of the things that I'll be doing on here. All of this that I'm doing was predicated on me wanting to improve my life and making things better for myself and understanding what was going on around me. And while I was doing this, I was also fortunate enough to come across Jordan Peterson. And he said a lot of things that I really connected with, such as putting yourself in order. It matters how you dress and setting your room straight. And if you're going to do it, then you might as well do the best that you can, and to not quit and to not give up. That, yeah, you're going to fail. Don't look towards perfection. I've watched a lot of his stuff, and it was kind of the right thing at the right time, and I'm going with it. And I also decided to make it a little fun as well, because I'm not just thinking about myself, but others, especially my friends and family who are closest to me, and also for everyone who's watching, to have some fun with it, and for you too to join me in doing this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I've always thought it was kind of fun watching any kind of TV show or movie, and they had like these noble houses, and it's like, I wonder how that could be. What does it take to do that? And yeah, so some of the things is that, they might have some kind of creed that they live by, and I have a creed. It's not final by any means, but I don't have a problem with sharing it at all. So right now, what I have is, I honor the House Jones. I will not work against the values of this house, and will study the values that we hold dear, from which I shall build and define my own values. Then, with a clear conscience, find my purpose, and with that purpose I shall give shape to my life, speaking what I understand to be true. My actions shall be my testimony to the truth of my words, not living a self-serving life, but a life of magnanimity. I will not enable others in their wicked actions, for I am not responsible for their actions or decisions. And so this is what, whoever, my kids, my grandkids, me, this is what they're supposed to get out of it. They're supposed to read it, and it's supposed to be geared towards them, not just me. And it's because I wish I had something like this whenever I was growing up. I didn't have anything coming from my family, especially my parents. I probably had more from my aunts and uncles than I did with my parents. And there's reason for it, and my dad is absolutely the worst. He's hands down worse than my mom. And so, yeah, Jordan Peterson also talks about how men kind of need a rite of passage, and that there are many cultures around the world that have done this. Women don't need this because they do that kind of naturally. It's like, oh, well, yeah, if I was a girl and I had to experience something like that, that would definitely do it. And I kind of got a hint of that a little bit, I would say, because I was in the Army. I was a 19 Delta Cavalry Scout, and it helped a lot. I haven't forgotten a lot of what it is that I've learned there, and have tried to move forward with it. It's definitely helped me in facing my fears. I'm also a big proponent of Aristotle's golden rule, and that is that any virtue that you take to any extreme becomes a vice. So an example of this is courage. If you see someone who's being robbed and you do nothing, then that's an extreme, and that would be cowardness. If you see someone being robbed and you go up and you help, then that's being courageous. But if you go up and they have like a gun, or they're incredibly big, say like they're 6'9" and 230 pounds of just kind of muscle, then that's recklessness. It's like, yeah, that's right. And I've seen this in other things. And so an example that I think people do not ever think about would be kindness. And so, yeah, if you're not kind, then you could say you're cruel. but an extreme form of kindness would be becoming an enabler. It may seem like kindness, but it's not. You're not doing anyone any favors by just doing this over caring for them. It's just not it, you know. And so that's why you don't give like homeless people money. Giving them money doesn't fix their problems. It might make you feel good, but it hasn't done anything for them. And I've noticed that there are places and people who have recognized this, and if you really want to help them, then give them something, not cash. Like there was this one place, what was it, Martha's House, this place locally, and they said that if you want to help someone, then get like a 10-gallon Ziploc bag, put contents in it like some aspirin, a bar of soap, a wash rag, maybe a roll of quarters of just a couple dollars or something like that, some hygiene products, medicine, Medicaid kind of things, you know, and just some real simple daily things, maybe a little things to eat, maybe a little candy bar or something like that. But if you really want to help, then you need to go and talk to the people who are professionally engaged in this stuff and see what you can do, either through donations or some kind of volunteer work, because that person who's there, there's like 50 major problems that's wrong with them, and you're in no way qualified or educated in a way to be able to deal with that. I mean, what do you think, that they had absolutely no one in their lives who's tried to help them, and you think you're going to magically come along? So it's not to say not to help out. It's just you better do your part first and go do your study and research and get your education or whatever before you start doing something like that. Or at least that's my thoughts on all that. And I also have some things that go beyond that. I took this mindset: if I could have done this over, what would I have done different and why? And so part of that was definitely my education. What would I wish that my school, my friends, especially my family, would have taught me? And I'm calling it the keys to life, because it's definitely not everything, just kind of a fun little title to give to it. And one of those keys to life is obviously knowing about your body. If you're not taking care of your body, then how are you going to have much of a life? So with that, there's little subsections to it to kind of help define it a little bit: diet, exercise, mental health, and physical health. I think I've already stated this before. I'm not going to get a PhD in psychology. I want this site to be able to help me with this so I can kind of cheat. One of the things that I've determined was that in order to help me with my progress was that whenever I made a decision with something, I didn't want to remember every single little detail as to why I came to that conclusion. I just wanted to trust myself that I did sufficient amount of work to be able to come to that conclusion, and then I wanted to move on. I didn't want to stay there, because it seems like there are plenty of things where you can really stay on that for a long time, and it's like, I don't think there's much of a purpose for that unless if it's actually your career path. And then knowledge with education, politics, social intelligence, and communication. I don't understand why communication is not such a huge thing. You do so much of that. I mean, I'm doing it right now, and I think people who can really communicate, the better you are at communication, the more effective that you're going to be able to get the things that you want out of life. Well, one of the things that I kind of figured out whenever I was younger was that there were a lot of other kids who weren't really as bad as they were, and maybe they were just having a bad day, or maybe there was something bad going on. And so whenever I felt like kind of calming things down, I would come at them with, you know, something just kind of seems off with you, because you seem like you're a good person. So is there something going on? And whenever I threw in that little phrase of, you know, you're normally a good person, and are you okay? Whenever I said those two things, kind of like something snapped in them, you know, and I would say that that worked like well over 90% of the time. I've gotten away from that. I think part of that is that I'm older and I'm kind of fed up with it. And it's just, again, this kind of going around in circles, and I want to do more. I want to do a lot more than just all that. That's what this is going to get at. I'm also working on myself the most, and so the others is faith, knowing yourself, needs, and personal relationships. And I'll probably be spending most of my stuff on knowing myself, having purpose. I actually did quite a bit on that whenever I first started off several years ago, whenever I was kind of fed up with what was going on with my personal life, and having purpose and values. And I'm working on my image. And so the reason why you see me in the same shirt is because I just put it over here. I'm taking a cue from Steve Jobs. And so if you don't know about him, just Google his picture and you'll see he's wearing the same thing all the time. And working on my environment too. I think an environment is a big thing. There was this show called Hoarders, and they kind of dove into it some, and I've seen friends and family too. And just whenever I clean up, I just think that there's a lot to it, to having a good, proper environment. I try not to go overboard by keeping it every little thing organized and clean all the time, but I don't want to go in the other direction either. And then also, what does that mean? And so I've taken it to also, what if you could really redesign your house? Do we have it right, with this living room and kitchen and bedrooms and all that? Where did that come from? Should it be something different? I kind of hate the idea of a living room to a degree, with there just being this television and people just sitting there and zoning out. I understand kind of entertainment in a way, but I think about, what did people do before they had electricity? How did they manage to get by and unwind? But you could also say, well, they didn't have to because they didn't have electricity and computers and electronics and cars and motors and all this stuff. For the majority of human history, they were just riding around on horses. That saying, a jack of all trades but a master of one. That's because, yeah, they didn't have anything to learn. It was minuscule compared to what we have now. So, and then my personal values are change, courage, devil's advocate, forgiveness. Forgiveness is a really important one that's helped me out a lot. I had a misunderstanding of it, of forgiveness kind of being like a live and let live. And now my idea of forgiveness is absolutely not. I'm not going to forget what you did just because I have forgiven you. That doesn't mean anything for you. That doesn't mean that you've changed, that you've gotten better morals or values. I really hate it whenever somebody talks down to me and that they say that they're sorry. And it's like, if you're really sorry, then stop doing it. And if you're not going to stop doing it, then don't do it around me. There's a word for that. Whenever you talk down to someone like they're a child, maybe it'll come to me. But I don't appreciate that. Either shut up, stop doing it, or go somewhere else. And I told my dad this, and it was a mistake. I told him that I forgave him, and he was just so happy and overjoyed. And it's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? There's nothing with us. It's done. Just because I've done this hasn't done anything with you. You're still horrible. And this is the same kind of thing that, well, that's another story. The reason why I try hard to forgive is because I don't want to be hateful, and I don't want to be angry, and I don't want to be just on edge all the time and just wanting to rip somebody's face off every time they cross me because I have this pent up anger. And so I'll have to work at it really hard for that, because I tell you what, whenever I was younger, I was much worse at just blowing up at people, and there were others who've come back later in my life and they were like, you were such a bully. And it's like, really? And I don't know if I quite agree with that. I can see how they might have said that, but the reasons that they gave for it and the reasons that I had in my head are not the same. So a lot of it was just, I told you to stop, I didn't want to hear it or whatever, and you continued, and so yeah, I dealt with you. So, but yeah, and so whenever I was looking into values and virtues, it was like, I have the wrong idea with these things. And it's gotten to the point where I was raised in the church, and it's become clear that to me, there's such a thing as TV Jesus. And it's this Jesus narrative that is completely wrong and just junk, where they've got like this much right and the rest of it's just trash. And it's constant all over the place, even with TV shows and movies that are specifically geared towards that. It's like, that is not my understanding at all. And yeah, and I don't know how much I'm going to get into all that. I think I have enough with the rest of it to get on, and I'm not here to give sermons with any of this stuff. So, magnanimity, I know that's something that a lot of people haven't heard, even in my life, that whenever I go around and I tell them, they don't know what that is. And basically what that is to not be petty. It's to not let the little things bother you. And I try to focus really hard on that. That's why with one of my keys to life is needs. It's just to remember that, yeah, you know what? I don't need to worry about having a big house or a fancy car or any of this stuff. And then that really kind of changes the way on how I look at my environment. I really enjoy living a simple life as much as possible. And I don't mean without things. It's just there was a time whenever I had a lot of things that were in my house just because, oh, that looks nice. And then other than that, they served no function, and it was a pain in the butt whenever it came time to clean, because I do 2 cleanings a year. I do a spring and fall cleaning where that's whenever I take everything out of the shelves and I clean everything. It's like, why am I doing all this? It means nothing. And so now I'm trying to go back. I kind of cleared a lot of that stuff out, and it's like, I don't want something around unless it has some kind of significant kind of value to it. And so, for example, I have this little bangle thing. It's kind of like a bracelet, I guess you could say, and it just has skulls around it. And the reason why I wear that is just as a reminder that we die, and so that whenever I'm out there in the world, encountering whatever life may have to offer, to not be afraid and to try my best to take it as a positive encounter that I can have of some kind, and to not shy away for any reason. And it's because, yeah, you know, my mom is dead, all my grandparents are dead, and I'm going to die too. So no, I don't want to. I don't want to be like that. And so it's not just having something to have something. I want as much of that as I can have, where there's something behind it. And that's also led to me seeing about how much people use words extremely shallow, in shallow ways where there's not much meaning to it. And so that's why I'm not a fan of politicians. They seem to do that a lot, all of them. And I'm just tired and fed up with it. And it's because of all this that it's now become this. I did not have any intentions of creating this at all. This was just about getting myself together. And it just kind of came into all of this. And it just kind of one thing led to another. And so here we are. And a lot of this stuff that I want to do to the website, it's not like this is something that I've just originally thought of myself. A lot of it is just stuff that's kind of already done there, and I'm just bringing it together, a lot of it together. And it's also all going to go online through a website, and we can do that now because we have the internet and all these computers and laptops and everything else. So you could say that, yeah, you're only able to do it because no one else has done it before and you haven't thought up of anything special. It's like, fair enough. But regardless, man, I want this done. It needs to be done. It's not going to make things perfect, not at all, but it's definitely going to make things better. And since this is what's kind of brought me to this, it seems stupid to not to continue to do it. It has definitely made me more level-headed and has straightened up a lot of things in my life, and it just continues to go that way. And also with Jordan Peterson, he's like, you know how much more you could do? Part of his clinical psychology has been helping people who are extremely successful. And he's like, that's the only way that you become extremely, at least financially successful with whatever field it is that you're in, because you're working like mad. And I think he's dealt with a lot of lawyers because he talks about them a lot. And he's like, you have to always be on demand no matter what, because whenever they're paying you $720 an hour and they need a problem fixed yesterday, that if you don't jump on top of it and do it, there's some young, fresh person out there who's willing to do all of the work to make a name for themselves. And like, it's highly competitive. It's like, well, of course, you know, I mean, how else do you do it? It's not like it just falls on your lap, because if success just fell on your lap, I mean, why hasn't that happened to all of us? It's like, no, I think it takes a lot. And he actually talks about it negatively, that these people who are extremely successful, it's because maybe actually there's something wrong with them. That these people, that if there was just nothing going on and you just dropped them in the middle of a forest with an axe, they would just go nuts and they just chop down every tree in sight, because they just don't feel good unless if they're doing something. It's like, why would anyone think that's a good thing to do? And they're like, and would talk about, he said this several times, is their financial life and their work life might be incredibly great and successful, But man, their personal life and their families, it's just nonsense. And it's because it's part of it is that it's non-existent. They're just always working, and I've heard this with Elon Musk. I mean, just a little while ago, they were talking about how he was falling asleep at the factory that he's got that Tesla factory. And it's like, yeah. So anyways, this is part 2 to kind of my introduction to all this and what we're going to be expecting here. And also, you know, part of being a member and doing all this, so let me go into this too, is that if this is something that you're interested in, man, hit that subscribe button, because that works with the YouTube algorithm. It's something that only you can do, and I would be very thankful for you for doing that. Become a member if you've watched several of these, because apparently there's some kind of connection going on here. And if you've been watching for a month, then do a membership on my Patreon or Subscribestar. It's down in the description below. And so in that way I can hire more people and do more, because this is all going to be built around dealing with the truth, and it's a bunch of checks and balances. It's a lot of automated systems, and the people are going to have a lot of control over this stuff, and it's going to start with kind of being like Wikipedia in a way. Wikipedia has become incredibly corrupt, and it's incredibly stupid on how they do it, but that's kind of the gist of how it's going to be at first. And so we're going to put in information correctly. So one of the things is that apparently Wikipedia and several of these other kind of dictionary sites, they actually changed terminology during this last presidential debate that was going on with Joe Biden and Donald Trump while they were running, just so it could fit the narrative of one of the candidates. And it's like, really? And yeah, all these people were reporting on it, and they had proof, and it's like, that's stupid. And it's because it's too easy. I'm tired of these little minority groups of people having control over something and just kind of doing something with it to their whim. And it's like, it's ridiculous. I don't like anyone telling me what to do. And I also carry that in the other way. It's like, nobody deserves to tell you what to do either. You can make up your own mind. I don't know what your life is. You don't know what mine is. No matter how much I tell you, you're never going to be able to understand 40 plus years of my life. That's stupid. So yeah, it's just one step at a time. I'm not expecting you to do anything right now. The biggest things is just subscribe on YouTube or whatever platform, and to give me a thumbs up, and then just watch these videos. And as time goes on, I'll explain more, and then it'll be easier for you to commit to do more. So I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.